Hello and welcome to Data Driven, the podcast where we explore the emerging field of data science. We bring the best minds in data, software engineering, machine learning and artificial intelligence. Now here are your hosts, Frank Lavinia and Andy Leonard.
Hello and welcome back to Data Driven, the podcast where we explore the emerging fields of data science, machine learning, and artificial intelligence. If you like to think of data as the new oil, then you can consider this show Car Talk, because we focus on where the rubber meets the virtual road. And with me on this epic journey down the information superhighway, as always, is Andy Leonard. How you doing, Andy?
I'm doing well, Frank. How are you?
I'm doing great. I know you're fresh off of Pass.
I am.
How was that?
Man, I got to tell you, it was awesome. And we had Tim McAloley there doing some on-the-site reporting for Data Driven. He was on the Facebook page. I was really glad to see him there because I totally underestimated how much time it would take to really be an exhibitor. It wasn't my first year doing it, but it was my first year as enterprise data and analytics doing it. And I own 100% of the company, so I was doing all the stuff that other people did in the past. So I was really glad he was there.
No, he definitely, definitely saved our hide, I think. And he's a natural for it, which is pretty cool.
Oh, yeah. I think we're going to do some more of that, right? We're going to have some more people do roving reporter type stuff at gigs like that.
Right. There's a big event coming up next week that we working on getting a roving reporter for that. So
sweet.
Folks who are clever enough will figure out what sort of big event happens the week after Thanksgiving. Just can't imagine what. But yeah, that'll be fun. I think it's a cool thing because it's kind of like seeing the show grow because it's been almost if not to the day, to the week more or less when I kind of had the idea for the name Data Driven in the podcast.
I remember we were chatting probably on Messenger, knowing us.
Yeah.
And you pinged me about it and said you had this great idea. I thought it was an awesome idea. I still do. And gosh, I haven't looked. I haven't looked, Frank. What are we up to? They changed their statistics the way they did it.
Yeah, I was going to mention that. So, so just so folks know what's going on is like I've been traveling, you've been traveling.
Yeah,
I've actually spoken at a couple of things.
Yep, me too.
Yeah, you too. You had a customer site down in the Tidewater area.
Yep.
Which is I'll be headed down there, possibly to the same customer.
Wow.
Next week, and in fact, I think it is the same customer, but
cool.
We don't want to dangle that in front of people, but
yeah.
They survived Andy, so they survived Hurricane Andy. They'll survive Hurricane Frank, I suppose.
We'll have to catch up for lunch or something if we can. They're they're a great.
Are you on site?
Oh yeah, I'm sure I will be. We haven't nailed it down yet. I was, I'm getting ready to go off to Thanksgiving land.
Cool.
And I think you are too.
Yep.
And yeah, it's neat to be able to know the stuff that is exactly what the customer needs, to have experience just solving exactly the problem. And you know this, Frank, often as you do work for Microsoft, you do sales support and sales professional stuff. That's not always the case. There's usually some kind of mystery that needs to be solved, you know?
Right. No, absolutely. These folks have their act together, which is pretty awesome.
They really do. And, I was very fortunate. Back in my Unisys days, Kent Bradshaw, who works with me and who's been on one of our early shows, data scientist, he and I worked together with one of the people who is, I believe, a director there now. And when they started kind of walking through what they're doing, it's a big shift to the cloud. We came up. So we've been doing cloud data integration since before they called it that. And, it's a good fit. And like I said, it's one of those gigs that I find more and more rare is, somebody's trying to do something that I've done before. And I know exactly what to do. I know exactly how to solve this problem.
Right.
Anyway,
no, they're a great group. So I'm excited to go down there and do some. Be doing a couple workshops actually. So that'd be pretty cool.
awesome. Well, I'm excited about that too. I want to.
Cool.
I want to know more, but we'll talk later.
Yeah, we'll have to talk when we're not recording because confidentiality, GDPR, and all that.
All of that, yes, sir.
Which is pretty funny because last night I spoke at an event, and I walked past, I guess, the European Union. DC is a pretty interesting place. I was on K Street and I think 21st Street, and basically looking for a place to get coffee, and there was a big sign. It was like you promoting the European Union. It was like European Union, how great it is and all that. And I guess it's their economic development office. And right above like a big map of the EU where it had, EU flag everywhere, there was a massive surveillance camera. I just thought that was hilarious. That was so I actually took a picture of it and posted on Instagram.
That's appropriate in some way.
Right. I think I tagged it #GDPR fail or something like that.
That's funny.
Yeah. But Instagram, I think my mainstream is at Frank's World TV.
Cool.
And so I always post a lot of stuff there, dog pictures mostly, funny stuff I see. It's not all data science related.
Well, I have seen, so this morning I woke up way too early, and as will happen, and I couldn't get back to sleep. So I was like, I'm just going to poke around on social media. I saw the dogs you were fostering. They're cute.
Yep.
And I don't know that I saw the GDP. I think I did, but it was so early in the morning. I was kind of zoned still.
I think I only put on, we'll attach it to the post here for the show, in the show notes.
Yeah. The GDPR failed. I like that.
So in the U.S. this week is Thanksgiving on Thursday, and we have a bunch of people coming over. We are fostering 2 foster pups, but they already one already has a home. She's moving to it on Saturday, and then possibly as early as tomorrow. And the other one could also go to her permanent home. So
wow,
which is nice because it's just enough time to kind of play with them and then not get attached.
Right.
Our record of keeping foster dogs is 50-50. So, yeah.
Okay. So these 2 may skew the results.
These skew. Hopefully they will skew the results. I mean, they're adorable, but puppies are, you forget how much work puppies are. They're definitely a lot of fun.
They are. Yeah. All of the above.
Yep.
Yes.
And then, so I was speaking at the DC has a meetup called the Emerging Technology Group. Really awesome group of people. I was asked to speak along with somebody else, and she focused on kind of applied use cases of AI in the government, and I did applied use cases of AI in private sector.
Nice,
pretty good group, pretty good conversation. Got a couple people that said that they're going to listen to the podcast and check it out. So if you're a new listener, welcome.
Yeah,
we're also on Spotify.
That's so cool. I saw the emails about that. So if you're listening to us on Spotify, we just got here. Welcome.
Yeah, and it's pretty cool. The stats you get on Spotify are a lot more detailed about demographics.
Oh, neat.
But there's also a bit of a bias in there because you're not. So we got a pretty rich set of statistics from our from podcast websites, which is who our hoster is. Awesome company. If you're thinking of doing a podcast, definitely check them out. But they recently changed how they record statistics because they wanted to line up with the Internet Advertising Bureau or something like that.
I think so. And the deal was, and I like the new numbers, even though they set us back a few thousand. Right. But I do. It's a more honest, and the truth is, like, if somebody started listening to the podcast and they listened to the first half on their jog, they came in and shut everything down, and then they're driving into work and they fire it back up, that would count as 2
on the old system.
But now it counts as 1.
Right.
And I like that number better. Yes, we had crossed, I think, 75K. And we're back down. We're knocking on 74K though, with in the new numbers. And it's been about a month since they made that change.
Yeah, I was worried because they kept telegraphing this for a while, thinking like, your stats are going to go down dramatically, and I thought they meant historically. No, I mean, we only lost like 2,000. So we'll get to celebrate 75,000 again.
Awesome. Maybe we can do that in Tidewater. Maybe.
Oh, that would be cool. That'd be cool. Because as of now, it's at 73,807 all time.
Okay.
So yeah, it's pretty cool. And it's definitely, we don't attach a lot of kind of ego to the numbers. At least I try not to.
Well, I mean, so the thing is, what I tell people, and I said this at the past summit when I was presenting, I had slides up for the podcast. Actually, we had a logo on the booth in the exhibition hall, and some people noticed it, and they said stuff about it, even on social media, and they asked questions about it. They asked about it, and I told them, at the time, I think we had like 72,000 or something. And I said, that's about 71,000 more than I thought we'd ever get, like in the lifetime of the show. It's true. We were hoping for four figures.
Right. Right.
And here we are. We're knocking, we're at 5, and we're in the upper end of 5, Frank. I mean, this is incredible.
No, it's pretty cool. I think I like to thank our, speaking of Thanksgiving, I like to thank our audience for helping us make this successful.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Bearing with us when we kind of tried some experiments. Most of our experiments have succeeded. Some have failed.
Yeah, like all experiments. Yep.
Exactly. Yep. It's okay to fail.
Absolutely.
As long as you're trying something new and you're always making new mistakes. So, but yeah, no, I'm happy with the, things were. And, as the legend goes, I was just out of my post-concussion kind of thing when I was thinking I should start a podcast because I just been laid off, and I was like, I got to do something with this, involuntary free time.
Right.
And it was before the and it was just as the data science cert program was spinning up.
Right.
And I thought it'd be pretty cool to record the journey of kind of going from, a noob data scientist to kind of a, Jedi master data scientist, and kind of record that and, share the ups to downs, get some interesting people on to talk about data science and how it's going to change our lives.
Yep.
And we were up early. I think we were doing something we normally don't do, which was shop on Black Friday. And I needed coffee, and I went to Dunkin Donuts in Gaithersburg, Maryland. Mm-hmm. And I remember I was just thinking, like, I didn't know what to call the podcast because I knew I wanted to be about data.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really have a name. And then I just saw like DD on the door for Dunkin Donuts because the door handles.
Right.
They've since removed the door handles, which kind of upsets me. It's no longer pristine as it once was. But
that's disappointing.
I know. Well, they switched to a single door opener now. So anyway, so I was like, DD, Dunkin Donuts, that's cool. What if I could make a podcast? I need to come up with a name for this podcast that's talking about this world that's going to be increasingly data-driven. And I was like,
right.
There it is.
DD, data-driven.
And then I didn't have anything to write anything down, to write the thing down. In retrospect, I probably could have just did like a voice recorder thing into my phone.
Right.
But because I was recovering from a concussion at the time, my short-term memory was a bit compromised, and I just kept saying "data-driven" to myself over and over again, so I wouldn't forget it because I thought it was such an awesome name.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and that's also helped too because when you're building out a podcast, when you're building out anything really, like you have to like the name of it.
Oh yeah.
Otherwise, you go insane. Like it has to be something that you're happy with. And
right. Rebranding is a big effort. I don't think people appreciate, the inertia of announcing a name. Your early adopters are gold. The people that listened to the first few episodes of this back in, I guess we went live. It was Memorial Day weekend of 2017.
Right.
And, those people.
Sorry.
No.
So kids, if you're doing the math, that it was from Thanksgiving to Memorial Day. Was basically the time it took us to launch.
Well, and now we could tell part of that story, at least, the domain name tells part of that story, datadriven.tv. And we were pretty convinced we wanted to do a show like some of the other shows online that have video as well as audio, and we tried. Frank did a ton of work on this, and we kept running experiments trying to get things running. We were never happy with, how that would work. So we ended up, I remember after fighting it, it was, I want to say it was around the 1st of February, 2017, where we
February.
said, we need to get a guest. We just need to drop this. We'll record the audio and we'll start that way. And then, we figure out the video, we'll just start doing that later. That's actually still on the roadmap. We want to do that. And we've got really good cameras. It's just hard to do that unless you spend $1 bajillion on, what are those things called, Frank?
A TriCaster.
So
I've been working on doing experiments with what I call building a poor man's TriCaster. So when I was at the K Street office of Microsoft, we had a TriCaster Mini, which is an awesome piece of equipment. And if you have the budget to do it, get it. It's basically a TV studio and can fit in your backpack. It's a tremendous device, but it starts at $8,000, and the model I had was a $10,000 device. And being laid off at the time, $10,000 is a real hard sell to your spouse.
Oh, sure.
Even if you're gainfully employed, it's probably I haven't tried, but I'm going to hallucinate that that it is indeed a hard sell.
People used to call that being financially embarrassed. I like that term.
Financially embarrassed.
Yeah.
I kind of set out with.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Financially embarrassed some of the time. I'm a consultant. Money comes and money goes. Anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry. I interrupted you.
No. And so I kind of set out to build a what I call the poor man's TriCaster, which one of these days I'm probably going to post out. And you actually saw it in action when you, Andy, and you, the listeners, is that when we were streaming the events that we were doing, the AI Fest in Reston and the Data Fest in Reston, that is the culmination of building that out. And I would say if you count the camera or 2 cameras that I used, I would say I was able to build that system with $500.
Nice.
Which can, compared to the comparable system would be $8,000 to $10,000. You know, having a question to say to your significant other or spouse saying, hey, I want to buy, $500 worth of stuff versus, $10,000 worth of stuff. It's a different conversation.
Yes.
And plus the $500 wasn't all laid out at once. The camera I bought the camera in 2013. So I'm using just a regular camcorder. Then I'm using a digitizing box by Elgato. And then I have the fancy thing, which was kind of a splurge. The Elgato thing was about $100. And then the switcher was about $150. So
that's a neat, but both of those are pretty neat pieces of equipment, and you were using it all.
Yep. I was using it all, and it was great. I even did some. If you watch the live stream on our Facebook page, you'll actually see kind of a pre-roll that kind of shows a little video saying, "Hey, stream's starting soon, but watch this instead." So, we can. We had the stream going for like 4.5 hours, which is the longest we ever had the stream going, which is awesome.
Yep, it was really good, and one of the pieces of feedback I got in the past couple months was about your presentation at that event. And that was streamed by me on my, my Samsung Note 8. And I was sitting in the back of the room.
Right.
And so I got an earful from a regular listener who's a friend. He wasn't angry, but he just was sharing. If you're going to do that again, do it up front. And because he really wanted to follow. You were laying down some really cool info, and he just wanted to pick it all up. And so I was like, yep, you're right. I'll do better next time. And that's about all I could say, but I walked away from that interchange, Frank, actually very happy. Ecstatic actually,
really?
Because somebody's passionate enough about the information that you're sharing or that we're sharing. I'd say there was definitely you at that point, and that they didn't tolerate, a subpar experience. And they had, my little phone the same day as they had your poor man's TriCaster to compare it with. And the difference was pretty obvious. They got that, and they just didn't like it. They didn't want to accept that. They want, the gold standard.
So, well, in Andy's defense, mine was planned, yours wasn't. I think you just sat down and started recording, which I thought was cool. I mean, there's always that tension between the desire to capture more data.
Right.
Whether that's data or is it, unstructured data like a video feed or whatever. And the versus of the quality of it. The quality of that was, I don't want to say poor, but I mean, it was impromptu.
I'll say that. I'll say it was poor, but because I was doing it. But at the same time, I agree with you, and you and I share this. It's because of just the way our DNA is and stuff. But we have what I call a bias for action. My mom calls it gumption.
Right.
Well, we're the type of people who would rather deliver, even if it's lower quality,
right,
than not deliver. And if that means sacrificing the quality, we'll do that. And we're not alone in that. There's a ton of good stuff out there, and I want to throw out an audio book that was suggested to me at the PASS Summit by Enterprise Data and Analytics Customer Success Agent Nick Harris, who's also been on the show.
Mm-hmm. Second guest, right?
Yeah, I think so. He suggested the Lean Startup, which came out around 2011 or so.
Oh, I didn't know they had an audiobook of that. I'll have to check that out.
They do. I don't know if it's the author, Eric Ries, I think is how you say his last name, Ries or Ries. Mm-hmm. Great book. Nick was right. It was spot on. And it's really interesting. That's one of the tenets of the book. So we've been doing this all the time, Frank. We've just been being these biased for action type people with gumption. Right. And it turns out that the science is behind us, that doing small batches, failing fast, putting out even lower quality, as long as you're putting something out. He advocates for that in the book, and he's got a lot of firsthand experience with it. He's a consultant now. He goes around helping companies and government agencies get these concepts into play. It's fascinating, and I'm not done with it yet. I'm in part 3 where he's talking about companies that are doing the work now, and companies he's consulted with. It boggled my mind, but definitely it's something we can both put into play, because we don't have to try. We're already doing it.
Right. But and also too, we do. It's not just that we're just putting out, poor quality stuff. It's just that we're going to learn from that. Is that next time you're going to move the phone closer to the front.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
One of the things I want to do the next time we have one of those Data Fest in Reston is plug into the Room AV, which would fix existing audio problems that we have.
Right.
Because I'm not happy with the way the streams have worked out. I mean, yeah, I'm happy, but I'm not. I don't know if that makes sense.
Right. No, it does.
You have to.
And
sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you.
I'm going to leave this in because it just shows how polite we are. But the key is constant, never-ending improvement. I think that's really the key. I've seen some organizations, and if you connect with me on LinkedIn, you can, if you're clever, you'll figure out who and when this happened, was that, that they adopt the mantra of fail fast. But that's only part of the story. You have to fail fast and learn faster. And then so the next time you don't make the same mistake twice. I mean, that's really the key.
Absolutely.
So next time, like one of the things that we've done some experimenting with, and I think it's worked out really well. So here's a case where it worked out really well. You did a number of data points out in London,
mm-hmm.
and some of them, the original audio was pretty bad, right?
Oh yeah.
And when you're doing it on video, your eye, the human eye can kind of like patch in and work up for that. But when you're just listening to the audio, you don't have any of those cues. So I learned a lot about how to clean up audio in Audition.
Right.
To the point where you recorded something in Heathrow Airport, which imagine recording a podcast in an airport, right? And you're not like in a fancy, like roped off area. You're literally at the gate.
And on the same Samsung Note 8.
And on the same Samsung Note 8. But I was able to clean up the audio to where it's respectable. And
it was great.
Especially the Heathrow one. The Heathrow one I'm most proud of. The
Yeah.
one where the guy was honking at the on the street in London was pretty funny. But some things you can remove, some things you can't. Sometimes it's called the atmosphere. But
Right.
We just learning how to do that. So last night I recorded a data point last night before I talked. It's up there now, and recording an episode. Walking down the street on K Street. Yeah, there was road noise, but I was able to get rid of 80-90% of it. So
Nice.
but because we
Nice.
learned how to do that,
Yeah. Yeah. And, speaking of feedback, I'm about to push publish on a post at andyleonard.blog about some feedback I got from some sessions at the past summit. I was tremendously honored, Frank. I got to deliver one of the pre-cons, which is a full day. They only pick 14 of those, and I want to say 4 of them are Microsoft. So of the remaining 10, I got one of those slots. And it's the first time I've ever done one by myself. I've worked as part of a team delivering pre-cons back in 2011, 2012. But so it was a huge honor, and I worked on it really hard. I think I put more time into that presentation than I can remember putting into any ever. It was just a lot. And the feedback that I got, I play this game with the evaluations, and I know you've had similar experiences being a seasoned presenter. I call the game "There's Always One,"
yeah,
and you know right away where that is. So I when I'm doing free events, SQL Saturdays and stuff like that, it's not that big of a deal. I really pay attention when somebody's dropping, some serious cash. And these people were not only, especially for the pre-con, they were not only paying however much they paid to attend the past summit, but they were shelling out an additional $500 to sit in that room. I had 107 do that, Frank. I was floored.
Nice. Well, because you're not Andy Leonard, you're the Andy Leonard.
No, but it was really cool. But and listen, I see you've thrown me all off now. I'm in the middle of blushing. No, that's okay. But this one person just did not like it at all, and you'll have to read the post. It's out. It'll be out probably by the time this is out. It'll be out. But I kind of went through. I think they missed something that I said. Maybe they zoned out or something, or at a minimum they misinterpreted. But my response is pretty much the same. I apologize to them. I'm sorry. I really am that, I got them that worked up. I rubbed them the wrong way that much. But the rest of the feedback was just incredible. I think it was my best numbers ever. I'd have to go look at the past stuff on there. But I also did a panel. And you want a recipe for low feedback numbers, Frank? Sit on a panel. I'm just saying. We only had 20 people respond, and on a scale from 1 to 5, like 4 of those were under 3. So, it doesn't take much to see 20% of the numbers are less than half. You're tanking the average at that point. So, and reading the comments, which I was happy to see most of the people who responded left comments, and you can kind of marry those up, right? You see the complaints and the low numbers. They anonymize everything. We don't know who's saying what, and that's as it should be. But goodness gracious, and I think they were fair. It's hard to do a panel. I'll just leave it at that. I think the panel did a great job. But there was that. And then the most people I had over 200 people attend my talk called Faster SSIS, where I talk about performance tuning, SQL Server integration services. And that went really well. And so, all told, I really felt, the experience at the past summit. So all day pre-con on Monday. Tuesday, we were actually setting up, we exhibited there. And I like that. I think we're going to do that again. Wednesday, I presented both of my sessions back to back. So I had the Faster SSIS at like 1:30 in the afternoon. And oh, by the way, by Wednesday, I was just about adjusted time-wise. I think I woke up at like 4 o'clock in the morning in Seattle instead of like 2 the previous nights. But Yeah, I was good with that, but did that and then did the panel right after that. But having Tim there was really not. I mean, I was worried. I was like, I don't have time to talk to anybody. People kept coming up to the booth, and I'm trying to sell stuff, and I was selling the data driven as well. I was selling the academies and everything, but we were on our feet every minute of every of every day.
I know. I saw your step count that week. It was impressive.
It was crazy. Yeah, I was to you.
I know. I was impressed.
But you know what? Presenting is I mean this. It's a huge honor.
Oh, yeah.
I think you feel the same way. And I love that you're getting out there and getting to talk more about data stuff. You've been presenting longer than me. You just were talking about developer topics back, after like 2 years ago and
to
back.
Politicians and dignitaries and that sort of thing, which turns out they're not really into developer stuff.
But you were doing community. Well, you were doing community stuff too.
I like doing the data stuff because it's cool to see people's eyes light up when you show them that this is not science fiction anymore. This is very real. And you cannot like what's going to happen. You cannot like some of the risks of low skilled jobs going away, but it's happening whether you like it or not. So if you want to have any kind of say in the outcome, it's best to learn now. And because complaining can only get you so far, realistically. Whereas action will get you bias towards action, right? I mean, that's kind of what we were going for. But to close the loop, I actually, through a freak of nature, I had 3 Audible credits. So I just picked up the Lean Startup book. And
awesome.
And
I'd love to know what you
by the
think
author,
of it.
and I always like those. Those are the best.
I do too. He does a really good job. That's why I didn't know if it was him or not. He's a good speaker, and it's not saying that authors aren't good speakers, but I'll just say I enjoy. So we like Grant Cardone, and Grant is hilarious. So Stevie Ray is on his way to his classical conversations meeting today. He's homeschooled, but he does this meeting one day a week, and he has the bone conducting headphones on, Frank. I got some for me. I couldn't get used to them, so I gave them to him. And he comes in there and he's like, "I'm listening to Grant.
Nice.
Be obsessed or be average." And he quoted a couple of things from there. I think he likes quoting them because it's like one of the rare occasions when it's okay, in my company at least, for him to use swear words. I'm just his mom doesn't go for that stuff, but he's 15. I'm under no illusions, I remember when I was 15 what I talked like. Even though it was, it was these and thous back then. It was the king. The king's
May thy horse get a tumor.
That's it. Shakespearean swear words. Yeah.
But no, go ahead.
But yeah, it's good stuff. And we have, just so folks know, Audible sponsors the podcast, and you can push a nickel our way or so if you go out there to thedatadrivenbook.com, and it'll take you right over to Audible. You can sign up. Our account is in there. All of the information is there for us. And you get a free book, a free audio book when you sign up. I do like the platinum plan now, Frank, because Stevie's listening to books. I'm listening to books. I think it's like 2 a month you get for free. And I still find probably every other month I'm doing the 3 credits thing where I'm shelling out like $36 for 3 credits. Just because, I'm on the road a lot, driving down the Tidewater, especially here. and I think this is going to last a while for us, which is not the usual in consulting, but this gig may go a while. But yeah, it's about a 3-hour trip down there for me. So I plug it into the van's external port. I've got one of those little cables, and I just listen to it on the radio. And it's awesome.
Do the same thing. Like I drove up to Sequel Saturday, Pittsburgh, and I basically listened to Grant Cardone the whole time.
You were mainlining Grant Cardone.
I was mainlining Grant Cardone. I called you. I'm like, we gotta do this. We gotta do this. We gotta do this. And I think at the time we had hit 20,000 downloads, and I'm like, we gotta get to 200,000. Oh, yeah. But so Grant Cardone and if you want to use your free Audible credit, I highly recommend either the 10x rule or the follow-up book, Be Obsessed or Be Average.
Yep.
It doesn't really matter, I think, which order you listen to those two.
Agreed.
But 10x rules sometimes he gives them away for free on his website, grantcardone.com. I originally saw him while I was kind of in that phase of, oh, woe is me. I have to change careers from developer to data science. It's hard, blah, 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 blah. And I kind of listened to him and was like, you know what? Stop being a whiny little blank. And because that's what he says. Like, and you kind of hear his story, and it's like, you know what? He's right. He is an acquired taste for some people.
Yep.
I get that, but I originally discovered him on was it Meerkat?
Oh, cool.
If you remember Meerkat, and I'm watching it, and I'm like, because Meerkat when it first started was a live streaming app. I think it's long gone.
Yeah.
There was a lot of stuff from one year South by Southwest, and I see this guy. He's like talking about his private jet and like how much he makes and like the importance of making money and like the importance of making yourself better. And I'm like, who the hell is this guy? Right. Yeah. And like, as I listen, he kind of is outrageous and stuff like that. And I'm like, I went from like, who the hell is this guy to, this guy's speaking some good knowledge here.
Oh yeah.
And then I got his book, cause he had like a sale on his website for like 99 cents or something like that.
Nice.
And, I was like, whoa. And it was just the message I needed to hear at the right time in my career.
Oh, yeah.
Right time in my life. I think I sent you a copy as well.
You did?
And I'm like, you got to listen to this. And this is all pre-data driven. This is all.
Oh, yeah.
I would make the statement that data driven would not exist had it not been for encountering that book.
I totally agree with that. It fired me up. There have been, times, so not just data driven, but also enterprise data and analytics may not be around. There have been times when, I've kind of been dragging, and it's been like, I don't know if I'm going to keep going with this. This happens in all entrepreneurs' lives. It's part of the cycle. And, I know, Frank, you went through, a low spot when you found out your job was ending.
Right.
And, and then some good came out of that. Good came out of this too. And I would say the same. Grant Cardone, listening to those books really motivated me, and they inspired me to stay the course.
Right. So in the holidays, people like to say that holidays are awesome and all that, and they are. But for some people, they're not.
Right.
So if you're in a spot where things aren't the way you want them to be, I highly recommend it. Interesting guy, interesting story. And Be Obsessed or Be Average, he kind of goes into more detail about how low his low point in life was. He basically got beaten up to death by his drug dealer or something like, I don't know. It's just, you have to hear him tell it. It's interesting. And now he's doing pretty well for himself.
Yeah. He's what, 8 figures, 9?
Oh, easily. I mean, he does have a private jet. He kind of goes into how that started, where he got the idea for that, why it's important. You just have to kind of listen to it in context. And again, he's an acquired taste, because when I first saw his couple of Meerkat streams, I'm like, who the hell is this guy? Like, who does he think he is? But it's funny, but like, and Ty Lopez is also something like that too. I don't think he has any books out, but he has a podcast, and I kind of listen to his stuff, and somebody recommended me to him, and I'm like, yeah, but I've seen his YouTube video, ads and stuff like that. He's kind of annoying. It's like, yeah, but you have to listen to beyond that. He has a lot of wisdom there. So I listened to it, and I was like, he has a point. And he goes into why he's the guy on YouTube that, like, he's sitting in front of a Lamborghini and goes, hey, I'm just sitting in front of my Lamborghini. I'm reading a book. It's almost like a parody of those Old Spice commercials. Because like there's one video he has, and he's hilarious. Like I don't whether or not he intentionally did it, but you know what? We're talking about him, so there's that.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
So he like he's on a treadmill desk. He starts off. He goes, "Knowledge is important," and then like he has a book he's reading while he's on a treadmill desk, and then he's like, "But you know what? People don't care about knowledge," and he goes, "They care about Lamborghinis," and he shows like his garage, and he's got like 3 Lamborghinis in it. And then, like, it's kind of like almost like that one where it's like, "Hello, ladies," It's kind of like that. And he walks through his mansion or whatever. And it's just like,
right.
But then, like, if you listen to him, he goes, the point is that, like it or not, we are culturally in the post-Kardashian world. And unless you kind of approach social media in a way that gets people's attention, your message is going to get lost.
Absolutely. And we know this because not like we're like the experts end all be all. We've been doing this 2 whole years, but we've both gone through the ideas of community building. We've done that in, IRL.
Right.
And we've done it online as well. And what works is, you being you.
Right.
That's what really works. And these guys are being themselves. I don't think there's a facade. And I use that. Yeah, I use that phrase a little. And I was just thinking about how I had a conversation a few weeks ago. I was talking about somebody who's an introvert, and that yes, there is an element of facade to someone who is an introvert, especially if they are doing things like presenting. And a lot of presenters you don't realize are introverts.
Yeah,
but they are.
That's true.
And they've got what equates to a facade, but. I'm going to throw this out there and then you can beat me up over it, Frank, but I'm going to call that an authentic facade.
No, I like that. And the other person who gets into the importance of authenticity is Gary Vaynerchuk. Also another good audiobook to pick up. Anything he's done.
Gary V.
Yes. He has a bunch of podcasts and stuff like that. Interesting guy, interesting story. I personally listened to Crush It, which is the first book, and like I kind of got the message, and then I listened to his follow-up, Crushing It, where he talks about people who followed the first book's advice and what they did with it, right. And I'm like, I don't remember hearing all that in the first one. Maybe did I miss something? So that might be
I listened to him in reverse. I did Crushing It first, and then I listened to Crush It right after that, and I didn't have that experience, but I think you're right. I think there was, people listened to that. Maybe they were listening to his, his daily show as well, and that's where they got a lot of the other stuff. Because, I didn't see everything in the first book that was in the second.
Yeah, so maybe I don't feel so bad now. Maybe there was like a whole context thing that was missing, but yeah.
No, I don't think it was you. I'll say this too before we get too far away from Ty Lopez and Grant Cardone. Is they did a show together. Grant was on Ty Lopez's show, intense. And that show is off the hook. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I was like, whoa.
So we'll put a link in the show notes for that one. Definitely, it's still out there on YouTube.
So I also think it's important. I know this is kind of like we've kind of deviated from the normal data science thing and. Anyone who's still listening, I want to thank you right now. But I think it's one of those things where it's important to review your goals, like because everybody goes goal crazy in January, but the time to start planning next year is now. Like what did you do that worked this year? What did you do that didn't work? Why? Because if you don't examine that, life's going to go by before you know it. And
well, you have a really interesting take on that, Frank, and you've got me thinking that way too. So I've already had my new year. So have you. We're looking at it's the 20th of November, right. And so I'd love for you to share your new year and where it came from.
So my grandmother, who was my maternal grandmother, was a big influence in my life. She grew up in Northern Ireland, and All Saints Day was like a big holiday. All Saints Day was the day after Halloween. It's the origins of that go back to an ancient Gaelic festival. There was basically like a harvest festival, and that was Celtic New Year. And over time, over the centuries, it kind of became Christianized into All Saints Day or Old Day of the Dead in some cultures. And it wasn't really like it wasn't New Year's. We didn't treat it like New Year's, but we always had a big dinner, like whether or not it fell in the middle of the week or not, it was always like a big thing.
Right.
And I kind of thought I had an awful 2016. Like the job went away. My mom got sick. I had a concussion. The cat died. I mean, it was just like, and it was about, it was Halloween or that time. I'm like, I just need to end 2016 now. Just put it behind me, end it now. I can kind of do that. Well, because why not? It's arbitrary anyway, right? And so I did, and I said, you know what? I'm gonna make 2017 a better year. It's I need to refocus on myself and rebuilding like myself, taking self-improvement seriously. And then I basically set down a list of goals of things I wanted to accomplish in the following year, and went about making it happen. And the other thing where I think that worked for me is because both my boys have birthdays within a week of Christmas. Right. So December is a blowout. Like, I mean, we're going to have to record a bunch of stuff in the first part of December and then cache them. Yeah. Because it's a blowout. It's just madness. When you have two kids under like of 7 or 8 and their birthdays are a week before Christmas, the rest of the year, it works out well too, because I usually have use or lose leave. So, so I just basically say, you know what, from mid-December on, I'm gone. And then what happens is that all that manic activity at home, on the stores and stuff like that, January is about exhaustion and like, what the hell just happened, And the kid, the kids, I mean, I remember my younger one, I guess last year he had just turned 3. When I took him back to daycare, like after Christmas and all that, and I'll never forget, he was reenacting the final scene in the original Planets of the Apes movie. He was like Charlton Heston, who discovered I dropped him off at daycare, and as I was walking away, he did like the whole, like, if he could talk, if he knew the words, like, "You bastard, you finally did," he would have said it. Because he did the motions and everything. It was like he reenacted the whole thing. And he was like, second to last kid to get there that day. And he just put on this whole show. It was very theatric. And the daycare teacher, God rest her, God bless her soul, she's still alive, was like, okay, that was like the 5th tantrum she's seen that morning.
Right.
So I found setting goals in January was just kind of like in a state of exhaustion and all that. It was not conducive. Yeah. So just because 2016 was so horrible, I kind of accidentally stumbled upon that. And as I did more research, it turns out that was like a thing. Like they would actually do, the kings and chieftains would do their planning. It makes sense. Everybody kind of did their planning, and then they would actually, discuss treaties and stuff like that. There would be like this, thing. It's pretty interesting. Sidetrack. Yeah. But anyway, so I discovered that worked for me because you're away from kind of that, that pressure to set goals. I want to lose this much weight. I want to do this. And then it becomes, you're so exhausted and you're still catching up from the holidays, that you just don't have the mental resources to actually implement these goals. So 2-3 weeks later, you feel bad and you feel awful and you just kind of go on with things. But by moving things forward 2 months, you can go into the holiday season and the madness kind of prepared. And you're not mentally exhausted or, and you don't have to feel bad about it. I mean, so for me, that's what I do. Like, and I kind of got the idea from Microsoft because the Microsoft fiscal year starts on July 1st too. So that's kind of new year for Microsoft. And I was kind of like, well, if they can do it, I can do it. Because the only one that really cares about it is, well, me. So it's not like not like I'm going to have a ball drop on November 1st or whatever, but it's a good time to reflect and kind of think about how last year went. And for me, it went really well. I mean, I committed to read more. What's really cool is apparently now Kindle will do analytics on your reading activity.
You sent me that. That's
well, I'm sure they've
awesome.
always been doing it. Now they just decided to share it. But I think I've read 16, 17 weeks in a row, which is pretty impressive.
Wow.
The number of audiobooks I bought this year is something like 40. I've listened to at least 3/4 of them, front to back. I picked up a number of books on humblebundle.com on data science and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I set with a record to read 60 books this year. I lost count, and that sounds terribly arrogant. But anyway, I stopped counting in January, and I'm probably about 50, 60. Next year, I'm going to do a better job of logging my progress. I've also lost 25 pounds this year, too. So there's that.
Nice. Good
Thanks,
job,
man.
Frank. So I did not read 60 books, I'm sure. I don't count them at all. And it's not because I think it's bad and wrong to count them. I just don't do it. There's other things I need to count. And, but I did say, so from March, or, I could say January, but we started the keto diet in March, and I actually dropped 40 pounds, but I've turned around and gained back 10 of them. So I'm down 30 pounds for the year at this point. Now we're getting ready to hit the road to grandmother's house over the river and through the woods. And there's a really good possibility that I'll only be down 25 pounds come the end of the week. But, the nice thing about keto is once you know the magic, you know how your body works. And it's a really cool way to discover, what works. And you and I have been practicing some, a modified version of it that includes intermittent fasting. And we've both seen dramatic results with that. So, it's normal. It's just normal for human weight to bounce around, a normal weight, human to bounce around in about a 5-pound range. That's just going to happen. But we've seen where, you fasted for what, 40 hours?
Is my current record. Yeah.
Wow. And, you drop a lot of weight when you do that.
Oh, yeah. And, before anyone on the call tries to do that, we're not doctors, all that stuff. Do the research.
Nope. And talk to your doctor, for goodness sake.
Well, the other thing is one of the people who's a proponent of intermittent fasting, or 2 audiobooks. There's 2 different people. Dave Asprey, which, as Shakespeare would say, thereby hangs a tale. But his stuff is really good. The bulletproof stuff that he's done it was really inspiring, I think, to both Andy and I. But Nicholas Nassim Taleb, he talks about intermittent fasting. He doesn't call it intermittent fasting, but he talks about the importance of. He uses a lot of fancy Latin words, which I appreciate because I went to a Jesuit high school and Jesuit college. So I don't feel completely not that I ever thought that it was a waste of time, but it's always good when I get.
Well, I was going to say I went to public school, so I'm thankful for translate.google.com.
Oh yeah. And if you look at franksworld.com, there is a quote in Latin. So maybe we should offer a prize to somebody. I don't know who can figure out what that means.
Somebody who maybe emails us first with what Frank's.
Oh yeah, on franksworld.com, right next to
we could
online since 1995. Maybe we'll send them a T-shirt or something like that.
Speaking of T-shirts, Frank's been putting out some really cool T-shirts.
Yeah, so another way to support the show, because we want to be conscious. Some podcasts, they do the advertising thing well. Some don't. Actually, most don't.
Yeah.
But I have a couple of designs. If you look for data-driven, if you're in the U.S., we have one design in the U.K. store, but if you look for Data Graffiti on Amazon, you'll see our T-shirt. We'll post a link in the show notes. We'll get like $5 for every T-shirt sold.
Yep.
It's just a great way because as we grow, some of our costs are going up. It's just a great way to defray the cost of producing this. as well as kind of help us pay for kind of some of the bigger plans we have, and we do have bigger plans.
We mentioned getting some more. We want to go video. We just do,
right?
And that's not going to be inexpensive. And we both Frank and I would rather have sponsorships of some sort pay or at least contribute to those costs. We both totally love what we're doing, and we do it for free. We actually do it for mostly free now. But it's an awesome opportunity in a way. You can help buy a T-shirt. You get a cool shirt. The Data shirt has actually sold a few.
Yeah, that sold a lot. And what's funny is that my 8-year-old, he wanted his own, and I know your son stole yours.
Yeah, I got to get another one.
So it's basically based on if you've seen the meme, Obey, and it's got a picture of Andre the Giant. It's kind of like that, but it says Data instead.
Yep.
I've added a couple of new designs. There's one here. There's 3 more pending, but the 2 that are out there now, let me pull up the site. Targeted by Data, and it's basically a bunch of darts. And it says, we know what you're going to buy before you buy them. I was actually kind of worried Amazon would not approve that one for obvious reasons. The other one is a picture of a guy in a lake fishing. And I say, clicking on that phishing email with PH, and there's actually in the description of the story how when my then 3-year-old, my older son, said he wanted to go fishing. Remember, Geek Dad, mom's also a cybersecurity engineer. I looked at him like, what in God's name is he going to do with those credit cards? And like, who's he going to launder the money to? And I realized he meant rod and reel. Yeah.
That's funny.
So then there's 3 more. There's one as cold as SSIS.
I like that.
And then there's another one called SSIS Rocks Your ETL World. And it's, if you're a KISS fan, the graphics will look familiar.
Yep.
And then there's another one with a motorcycle on it at a gas pump that says Data is the new oil. Blah, blah,
I like that one a lot.
Yeah, that one's going to look cool.
I'm going to get the, so at the tape, we're recording this on the 20th, November 20th, 2018. I don't think it's technically out yet, but as soon as it comes out, I'm ordering one.
Awesome. I'll let you know.
Yeah, let me know.
Stay tuned to my Twitter feed.
I got to do that. I got to get a replacement for my Data shirt. I just figured I'd order them together. Oh,
yeah. And it's funny, right? I wore the Data shirt to drop the little one at daycare. Cool. And some kid noticed it. A 3-year-old. A 3-4-year-old. I'm like, that's interesting. And then he goes, my brother has one of those shirts too. And he kind of said it with like a tone, like, I'm like, do you want one too? He goes, yeah. So whatever, man, it's working for the kids. So,
well, that's a good target demographic for us. That audience is going to live longer than anybody else.
This is true.
Statistically speaking, I'm just saying.
So this is true. So, so with that, I think we're at an hour now.
My goodness, that was fast.
Yeah, I know. Time is fun when you're having flies, right?
Oh,
wait.
There it is.
I'm slow on the mark today. But yeah, so check that out. Hopefully those designs will be approved. Normally it takes about 24 hours, but given that this is a big week for retail, I'm sure it might be delayed. So
right. They may be doing other stuff over there at Amazon.
They might be a little busy this week. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So with that, have a great Thanksgiving. Have a great week. And normal programming should resume shortly. And anything else to add, Eddie?
No, I like that ending, Frank.
Cool. So we'll let the nice British lady finish the show.
Thanks for listening to Data Driven. Don't just listen. Become a data driver by going to datadriven.tv to sign up to join the community, access to special events, tips and tricks, and more. Sign up today at datadriven.tv.